The other week, the Supreme Court issued this ruling of enormous symbolic weight. The term woman under the Equality Act 2010, it said, referred only to biological women, that is, individuals born female. The case, brought by 4 Women Scotland, wasn't just legal, it was cultural, philosophical, and profoundly personal. For many, it represented long-awaited clarity. For others, it was a declaration of exclusion, dressed in robes of judicial neutrality. But the real firestorm ignited not in the courtroom, but online. J.K. Rowling, the patron saint of the gender critical movement and the patron, quite literally, the billionaire patron, quite literally, of the case itself, took to Twitter to demand apologies from those who had previously affirmed that trans women are women. Among her targets, Prime Minister Keir Starmer. During his Labour leadership campaign, Starmer parroted progressive orthodoxy. He asserted unambiguously that trans women are women, and that denying this was harmful. He later hedged, offering the infamous statistical dodge that 99.9% of women don't have a penis, which pleased precisely no one. Now, following the ruling, Starmer says that a woman is an adult female and has welcomed the judgment as bringing real clarity. It is, as Rowling sees it, an act of cowardice, truth spoken only once the risk of speaking it has passed. Her outrage is not, I think, about the ruling per se, it's about betrayal. She believes Labour politicians bowed to well-funded activist groups, and in doing so betrayed women. But irony abounds. Many of the same politicians who welcome the Supreme Court ruling are sacrosanct, these people who welcomed the Supreme Court ruling as something that cannot be contradicted, were quick to attempt parliamentary override when the Supreme Court blocked the Rwanda deportation plan. So I think we have to get rid of any illusions about judicial infallibility being universally respected. The truth is, after 15 years of the Supreme Court, legal authority is upheld when politically convenient and scorned when it's not. Now, Rowling's demand for an apology is moral, not legal. She seeks accountability, not reinterpretation. She is asking, do you regret supporting those who, in her words, sacrifice the safety and dignity of women? And that question cannot be answered by reciting legal precedent. It requires a reckoning with consequences. And this is where the tension lies. Trans people are also asking for recognition, not abstract rights, but daily safety. And their worry, as Victoria MacLeod, the UK's first openly trans judge, put it, is that they are now legally no longer one thing, but not the other either. They fear banishment, not from law books, but from locker rooms, from gym memberships, from dignity. And let's be very clear, the court ruled on statutory interpretation. It didn't philosophize about gender identity itself. It found that the Equality Act implicitly uses woman to mean biological female in certain contexts, but crucially it refused to hear directly from trans people. It accepted submissions from gender-critical groups, but declined interventions by trans experts, including a former High Court judge. This, as legal scholars have pointed out, violates a core principle of justice. Audi autorem partem, hear the other side. And therefore, the ruling itself, even if the present government is prepared to accept it uncontested, is dodgy, is seriously flawed. Audi autorem partem, hear the other side. And they didn't. They heard people who were speaking on behalf of the other side. They heard legal opinion about the other side. That's not the same. In the days since, we've seen mass protests. Thousands of people in London voiced fury over what they perceive as a rollback of trans rights. We've seen the Transport Police issue an immediate diktat that male officers are going to strip search trans women, and now ministers suggest that trans women should use male loos. This isn't just a U-turn. It's a drift into contradiction. Labour is walking a political tightrope. The party, once promised to simplify the gender recognition process, has actually complicated it. The Rowling has it was pictured with a cigar and a cocktail celebrating. It's not a good look, really, is it? If optics are messages, this one was thunderous. What's missing in all this, actually, despite the apparent clarity, is clarity. We have that. We have that now legally, but we don't have. We don't have candour. We don't have certainty. Starmer need not apologise to Rowling, but he must explain why Labour once embraced a position it now disavows. And he must acknowledge the harm done on both sides, to women's safety certainly, but also to trans dignity. True leadership doesn't wait for judges to speak first. It requires moral courage, which cannot be outsourced to the bench. To this end, this isn't a story either about Rowling or about Starmer. It's about what happens when identity becomes a battlefield for political capital. The Supreme Court has ruled on what the law says, but it's not resolved the deeper question: who do we count and why? And I think probably the example to look to is the late Pope Francis, who steered a very, very careful line. He didn't always succeed because he was trying to do something almost impossible, of pointing out that although there may be a ruling which is clear, kindness, charity, and sort of pastoral application means that the ruling may be bent in application. The ruling may change in the way it's applied on the ground, and I think that's one aspect of the approach. The other aspect is simply to recognise that that although we have to guarantee, and it's outrageous that this was not guaranteed, that we have to guarantee women's only spaces, and it's astonishing that it's ever been compromised. But at the same time, we have to guarantee space and security for trans people and for those who are transitioning. Years ago, I was asked to do the front cover to illustrate a book called In Transit by Bridget Brophy. It was one of the first major trans texts, and I am incredibly proud to have been associated with it in some small way. And one of the key scenes at the beginning of the book was, which loo does the central character use? And that question is still central today. That question, the question about trans identity, is not an abstract question, it's practical. And that is not solved, by the way, because of this ruling. It is not solved. This ruling is a procedural ruling. It's not a practical ruling. No matter how much the transport police interpret it as such.